We do want to welcome everybody from multiple agencies all over the world. Actually, this is a hot topic for dealing with AI. Quick disclaimer for everybody, because this comes from GSA, so we have to say it, right, Jeff? Have to say it if it comes from GSA. All right, it's for informational purposes only. All participation by you, the government personnel, is not an endorsement or an indication to purchase from any vendor. And this session is being recorded. Normally, I say AI is prohibited on GovBrief because we're real human beings, but that would really kind of run against the grain today, wouldn't it?
Make it kind of hard for me, that's for sure.
So we're going to allow AI today, ladies and gentlemen. The rest of us have to be human beings the rest of the time. All right, so we love participation, don't we, Jeff?
We do.
We love it. So we do have some things for you. If you have something that you'd love to throw into the chat, let us know. And if you have something for Q&A, pop it in there. I'll do my best to be able to pay attention. We have over 50 people here so far, so it might kind of get crazy. So do me a favor and put your questions and comments in the Q&A. I'll try to keep up with the chat as well. And if you have something that you don't want everybody to see and everybody to know, send it to jeff.lanham@divine, DIVIHN.com. And we'll populate that every once in a while so they know how to get in touch with you. Is that okay with you, Jeff?
Sounds good to me.
And we do like to have some fun. Who loves death by PowerPoint? Nobody.
Me? Oh no, never mind.
Nobody. So if you're enjoying yourself, throw up some of the emojis or whatever. We'll make sure you get what you can, and I will have some handouts for you in just a moment as we get there. So first things first, why are you guys here? Are you on the hot seat for implementing AI in your agency? You want to get your head around this AI thing? You want to be part of the dialogue? Because that's what we're going to be talking about today. Or your boss made you come. Like I said, we like to have a little bit of fun. Not too much fun, because then it won't go over well with your bosses, right? So real quick, best briefing ever, Jeff. Here we go. You ready?
Yes, sir.
Best briefing ever. You ready for this? If it covered risk management approaches to AI, probably talk a little bit about that, right?
Yes, we will.
How about Lisa at FAA? We all just got along. I don't know if we're going to be able to help you with that, Lisa. I don't know. I'm not sure what's happening over there at the FAA, but we can help at least alleviate some of the AI. And Graham from the FDA says it rocks. So we'll make sure we amp it up a little bit for Graham. How about that?
It's a high bar, but I'll give it a go.
There we go. And Robert from the VA, I could help with coding and documentation. I do believe it can it? And sure. Heidi from the VA, follow-up information sessions are provided. You're actually going to be able to do that, Heidi. We'll make sure you get that. Victoria from the FDA, I understood how AI can be used for government in a closed environment. That's an interesting one, right?
Yeah, we'll talk about that quite a bit.
Yep. And Lola from Department of Transportation, I learned how to stay secure from the negative impacts of AI. I don't know if you're going to solve all those problems with the negative impacts.
The easiest one on that one is just not to use it, right? But there's some opportunity cost there, so we can talk about that for sure. We'll definitely cover that.
Well, we'll also do a little bit to help ease Lola's concern. All right. Absolutely. And lots of people were talking about they just learned something new. Best briefing ever to just learn anything. So obviously they're not getting good things out of briefings. We also had Ruse saying if it can apply to my work. Colette, if I can attend. And Kim, hopefully Kim and Colette are here because that was their whole thing. If they could just attend, it'd be the best ever. But it was Wendy and Jocelyn and Sean and Buna from VA also all said learn something new. Corey said learn something new. And a lot of folks were asking how it can help me with my job. There's a bunch of folks saying that, as well as keeping my job and not taking my job away. That's one of the concerns too. So
real quick comment on that, Dave. Let's just hit that one right now, right? I think the main thing you can do, AI is doing what it does, and it's going to do more going forward, right? So, the best thing everybody can do is just get more familiar with it, try to embrace it and understand a little bit better, try to figure out, if you can make good on number 2 there and engage it to help you do your job, then guess what? You're one of the people working with it, not against it, and that's only going to help in terms of, making you one of the people that work with it instead of against it. So I think simply attending here today is a good step in that direction. We'll try to give you some specific things you can do and information sources you can explore further to try to, help with that. So
Love it. Love it. Love it. And please address what is meant by the term AI. We're going to start there, right? At least
artificial intelligence.
that's right. And sometimes it's like there is some confusion, right? Whether it's robotic processes and stuff like that. So I think Jeff, you can pop in on that. Anna was saying what tools are available for use within government agencies such as VA, what it takes to get access. Great question. Jay from the VA, what are the simplest types of AI problems, low-hanging fruit that we could simply be solved by AI? I like that idea too, right?
Yeah, we'll show quite a bit of that and on several different levels today. So
love it. And Cecilia from the VA, automation / machine learning aspects versus true AI. That goes back to kind of the difference, right?
Yeah, and I think, true AI, I think that might mean a couple different things, but if that means general AI, then absolutely we'll talk about that and where that kind of, fits
Love
into
it.
too. So
And Charles, using AI tools to reduce the redundancy of entering the same information into multitude of silo type pet programs. Pet programs in the VA, Charles, come on. I can't believe that there could be silos or pet programs in any federal agency. And then Ha says from HHS, how to safeguard wrong information from being released using AI. That's a tough one
yeah,
as
we'll talk about that a little bit too.
And we will talk about it. So Graham is saying, I'm talking about the bucket list, right, Graham? So did the Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. Love it this summer. Got to shake James Lawton's hands. Love that. It's awesome. If you haven't been to the Hall of Fame, that's good stuff. And Stephanie's like, okay, what's the difference between generative AI and AI? Ooh, how about that from
Talk about
Stephanie?
that a bit too. Yep.
All right. So we're gonna get those. Make sure you pop those things in there, and I'm gonna end this poll. We have 84%, so I'm going to shame another person or two getting into this. You can answer these questions. There it is. See, I already did it just by calling them out. All right, so we're going to give it another 5, 4, 3, 2. Any last minute straggler, wallflowers, 1, and boom. Here we go. Here, you ready for this? 70%, the top, trying to get their head around what AI can do for their agency. Love it. 28% want to be part of the dialogue. Fantastic. And 4% said that my boss made me come. See? Throwing their boss right under the bus. And 32% have been to GovBrief before. Fantastic. Welcome back. We always love seeing you. And you know what you're in for if you've been here before, so I don't have to say too much. But we do like to have a little bit of fun. But we
also did say, Dave, that looks like a handful of people are on the hot seat for AI here, so that's interesting.
That's right.
Hopefully we'll help. And
there you go, 10%.
More later.
10%, matter of fact.
Yep.
All right. So real quick about Divine and what they do. Divine is located in Chicago, just outside Chicago, and that's where Jeff is from. And the whole objective for them is to create value through IT, and it can be cloud-based, it can be on-premise, cybersecurity solutions, using a reusable IP. And just absolutely helping agencies manage their data, including with AI, right, Jeff?
Absolutely.
They've been an active contributor to the community. You can see with the FBI, with the National 911, and multiple places, working with community and nonprofits. They were founded in 2002. They are an 8A firm. They have a GSA contract. They just got their facility secure clearance. And they're also awardees on multiple IDIQs. So we'll make sure you guys get information on them as well. But we want to welcome you, Jeff. We appreciate your participation and helping us learn these types of things. And we do have a question, and that is, have you used any AI tools? And if you have, which ones have you used? And it could, and that way we can get an idea about that. And we love the participation. So Jeff, I'm going to hand this over to you while they're taking a look at that. And we are allowing it to be transcribed. And I will have for everybody the handouts for this by the end of the session. Sound good with the presentation?
Excellent.
All right, I'm going to stop the share. You ready?
Let's give it a go.
Let me see if I can let you do it. There we go. Is that working for you?
Let me
Let's see if there's any other questions while that's popping in. Been using ChatGPT. Ari's been using ChatGPT, Claude AI, Perplexity, Llama, Gemini, and Copilot. Ari, hey, rocking and rolling on the multiple. You're doing some comparison shopping for that. Is that what it is, Ari? Actually, let me see if Ari can talk. Can you talk for a second, Ari?
Hi, yes. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, absolutely.
Great.
So who are you with agency-wise?
HHS, and I work with OIDP, Office of Infectious Disease and HIV/AIDS Policy. And within HIV.gov, we have our consultants and some of our select members work on different AI tools to try out to see if it can help with revisions or rewording or brainstorming. And so I often have 2 to 3 tools open to see what gives me the best answer.
That's awesome. We got a power user here, ladies and gentlemen. Ari's a power user. This is fantastic. If you got anything to throw in on this, Ari, you just let us know, okay?
There we go.
Noted.
We love it. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate that. And we're going to give you another 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 on your tools. Last minute stragglers. All right. Here we go. Jeff, as you're looking into this, 55% ChatGPT OpenAI. Are you surprised at that?
No, that seems about right, I would think. A little surprised that there's so much in the other ones, actually.
Wow. And you do a lot with Microsoft, right?
Yeah, actually, I do a lot with Microsoft and a few other tools as well. We are going to do a short demonstration of some Microsoft Copilot capabilities at the end of this, which are coming to the government and a few other options there too. So, yeah.
And we have almost a third of the people that aren't using anything yet. That's awesome.
Oh,
That's awesome. We're going to get into it, right?
Yeah.
All right, Jeff, tell us about AI. Tell us a little bit about overall. Just get us started, and we'll be rocking and rolling before we know it.
Sounds good. So can you see my slide? Am I sharing right now?
Can do. Can everybody see that? Give a thumbs up if you can see it.
All right. So
that'd be great.
So basically this is a quick look at the agenda for the conversation here today. I'm sure everybody's interested to hear, the latest on how the government, especially the federal government, is approaching AI and things like that. We'll talk a little bit about how it's evolved over the last couple of years and the role of data and public versus private solutions kind of in that context. Talk a little bit about some of the tools that are available and then show a little bit about Microsoft Copilot that I mentioned. Hopefully, we whet the appetite for things you might be able to do now, depending on your agency, and we'll certainly, hopefully, be able to do in the not too distant future. And then talk a little bit about what people can do to, take away from here and go apply it in their actual lives. So I think, real quick, I used to have a slide that kind of defined some terms, right? But I took that out. I'll just say a couple things real quick about, types of AI, right? So artificial intelligence is a pretty broad term that applies to, any kind of computer systems that are trying to mimic or behave like, human intelligence. So the most common things these days are what are called large language models, right? That's a specific kind of machine learning solution that takes a whole bunch of, content, typically from the internet, and, compiles it into a model that you can then ask questions and it can, answer and generate output, right? There's other different kinds of specific, AI solutions besides large language models and ChatGPT style things. And we'll talk a little bit when I get into this about, what some of those capabilities look like. So, and then, of course, generative AI, that's what, ChatGPT and these things are about. That's, that large language model is an example of a type of generative AI. And of course, there's more and better ones these days that don't just do words, but they can generate images and even video and things like that, which is, powerful stuff and, also some risk there. So we'll kind of talk about that as well.
Fantastic.
Make sense so far?
Yep, sounds good. And if you have any other questions, please feel free you can raise your hand. Oh, wait a minute. Hang on a second. Albert's got did you raise your hand, Albert, just say hi, or you got a question? You can unmute, Albert. I think you can. I think it might just be to say hello. But if I got it wrong, just unmute, Albert, and you can throw in a question anytime.
All right. So we'll keep plowing ahead here and circle back if we need to. So for starters, one of the most noteworthy developments in recently in government and AI is the executive order on safe, secure, and trustworthy artificial intelligence that the White House released last October, so almost a year ago now. It establishes the first government-wide effort to guide responsible artificial intelligence development and deployment through federal agency leadership, regulation of industry, engagement with international partners, and other things like that. It actually specifically directs over 50 federal entities and agencies, so probably a pretty fair portion of the folks on this call, to engage in more than 100 specific actions and activities to try to implement the guidance set forth across these 8 different policy areas, right? It kind of breaks down and provides guidance in each of those areas, which is all important stuff. It also, the White House also kind of set forth the AI Bill of Rights to help further promote trustworthy and safe computing in this context, right? So executive orders, executive activity from the admin branch trying to do some stuff. Not a ton of legislation yet, right? But some other policy things, some other recent developments that are interesting. Just last month, NIST released their AI risk management framework, which is a thing they've been working on for a couple of years now. Really kind of trying to lay out, again, some guidance, some best practices, some to-dos and not to-dos that should hopefully help everybody, both people using AI solutions and people implementing as well. So good stuff there. OMB, first government-wide policy to mitigate risks of AI and harness its benefits, again, kind of in conjunction with what we just talked about. Other things, other information sources, including the responsible use of generative AI for the federal workforce guidance. So we have a link to that can provide quite a bit more background and insight into what each agency can and can't do. And, every agency has websites now that kind of speak to their policies and procedures on AI. So
real quick about that. So as a federal employee, so everybody here that's not us, right, is a federal employee, and carefully considering the benefits, right? So and the risks. So we're going to talk a lot about some of the benefits of those, but dealing with generative AI. So for folks who don't know what that is exactly, that's actually creating things. Just like you mentioned, images can be created and videos can be created, right? We're seeing a lot of that out in the news as well.
Yeah, you tell it what you want and it tries to give that back to you, whether that's, words or images or videos or whatever. So definitely, a lot going on around that. The other thing here is, I mentioned, I'm going to tell a little bit about some of the current Microsoft tools and why that's important. It's useful to note that earlier this year, Congress specifically banned Microsoft AI Copilot in Congress, right? So if you're from Congress, then you aren't allowed to use that for the time being, at least. That doesn't necessarily apply to all other agencies, right? And your mileage may vary, and you should definitely check into your own policies and things like that. But we do know that Microsoft Copilot Studio, which is one of the tools, of many things that Copilot can do, which basically lets you create your own chatbots with your own information sources. That's now generally available on GCC High, so Government Community Cloud High Security. That's Microsoft's Department of Defense level, certified platform. And if you have that, and I bet most of you do, you should be able to use Copilot Studio. Mixed bag on Microsoft 365 Copilot. That's basically the flagship of Microsoft's AI products at this point. It costs extra. You have to pay for it. And it isn't available on GCC High yet, but it will be in about a year from now. So they're targeting September 2025. So again, maybe you can, hopefully you'll be able to use some of the tools, or at least experiment, with them that I'm going to show you later on, unless you're in Congress, in which case, no. And hopefully that will open the path to, making these tools, because there's some cool stuff, as you'll see, available to everybody across the government. So more to come on that. Stay tuned.
I didn't see anybody from Congress come in, but could be. Never know.
Right.
So,
all right. So we'll do a quick tour of recent history of AI. I used to do a little bit longer version of this, but what's really interesting is kind of before and after a pretty big recent event, right? And that's back in 2022, up till late 2022, AI was developing across a lot of different industries and use cases and, things like self-driving cars and, Alexa and Siri and some things like that, right? But, it wasn't really broadly used and wasn't really a thing that lots of people were doing something with, right? Not much use other than in specific areas or for certain particular kinds of solutions. Then in 2023, late 2022, OpenAI released ChatGPT to the public, right? It was November, something like that. So, pretty much all of last year was people understanding and exploring and getting to know and becoming more familiar both with the capabilities of ChatGPT specifically and a whole bunch of other related and similar generative AI tools, that can generate images and videos and all these other things, right? So a lot of experimentation, a lot of sorting out and trying to figure, how can I really use this and what does this really mean and all that. And there were some limitations based on the fact that, there's risks to using those things, especially if you're, asking questions or putting anything in that's proprietary and confidential information, right? That's a no-no, as we'll talk about in a second. So what's happened since then? Right? So given this whole new thing that kind of was a pretty big inflection point in AI usage and people's awareness, right? Pretty much new headlines every day in 2023 and since about AI and different developments and different companies and the massive investments, the top tech companies are putting into it and things like that. And the fact that NVIDIA, who's the #1 hardware company that produces products that make AI possible, has in the last 2 years become the most valuable company in the world, quickly surpassing Microsoft and Apple and Amazon and all those other ones. So clearly a lot going on, right? So what's going on now? The challenge is, and pretty much all of the pundits and consulting firms like Gartner and Forrester and Harvard Business and Princeton and all those other things are talking about, how people and CEOs are looking at, this is great, right? We have all these tools now. More and more, there's a cost that comes with those tools, and more the privacy and security and risks are becoming understood. So what do we do with this, right? Where is the value, right? How do we, if we're going to spend money on this, how is it really going to help us do things better, more efficiently, more productively, and ideally in a measurable way? So really, how do you get value out of these cool new tools and capabilities is really kind of the focus for now and probably for the next year plus as these products and tools and vendors kind of sort themselves out. So I alluded a couple times now to this notion that, when you use ChatGPT and some of these other tools that are not private, that are not secure, there's risks, right? You can't and should not just go, you can, right? But you should not go out to a ChatGPT or some of these other public AI tools that are free, right? Typically you have to sign up and give them your email address, but usually that's all. Sometimes they charge a nominal, $20 bucks a month or something like that, to give you more bandwidth and additional capabilities. But there's, a lot of free stuff out there that you can just go play around with and try out. What you should not do ever, right, is put in as part of a prompt or any input information or anything else that you're putting into the tool and by way of the prompt interface and other, file uploads or things like that some allow you to do. Any information you put in there could theoretically be used by the AI company to train new models, to refine how they process prompt handling, to try to improve their own products and tools, and even potentially show up in future search results that somebody else asks for. So there's no security or privacy or anything when you use those public tools. So
can I say something real quick, Jeff?
Go ahead.
We talked about this with multiple agencies, and I've if it's free or really cheap, ask yourself this question. What is the product? Who is the product? You.
Yeah.
If it's free or it's cheap, you become the product. So the data that you put in, like you said, right, Jeff, your data that you're putting in there becomes the product, and that becomes part of the learning engine. And separating, and there's ways to do this, right? Where you have like an internal engine that AI can use your internal data to be able to learn, right?
Yeah.
That never gets put out to the rest of the world. unless you choose to put pieces of that's generated from it. The outcome can be generated. But think about it. If it's free or if it's cheap, what's the product? And it's you.
Yeah.
So.
Yep, exactly right. And you just described, the last column here on this slide, the private AI area there, where it's a couple things, right? Now, typically this is in the realm of products you have to pay money for, right? And it's usually in the range of between $10 and $30 per user per month to have access to this. But private AI in general, both generative solutions and other kinds of solutions, as we'll talk about, not only can protect your privacy and security and not share and publish and make available in any way your own proprietary data that you either put into it by way of prompt, or they can be used to train custom, models, right? And that's really where there's amazing value, is when you take your data and you make your own model out of it that's private, secure, completely internal, but now you can do stuff that nobody else can do because they don't have the models that you've built with your data, right? So that's really kind of where this all leads to. And, spoiler alert, a lot of the conversation that I'm giving here today is about public versus private AI and the importance of understanding the difference and only doing work, business, proprietary, confidential, or personal private stuff in an environment, in a scenario where it's private and secure, and they're protecting your information, not sharing it with anybody that wants to ask for it, right? So big, important stuff there.
So real quick, before we get into that next part,
yep,
we're going to get Aladdin's lamp out. Everybody ready for this? Ready for this? Ready? I wish AI could help me fill in the blank, because this is going to go across the board. So for me personally, I'll throw in my part. I am not the most organized person in my filing of my computer stuff. So me personally, I would like it to go through my internal files without releasing it to everywhere else, right? And say, hey, can you help me organize if I'm looking for this type of thing? Maybe I wrote a white paper or I did a presentation on something, to go through that and grab that information and say, here it is, Dave. And then it can actually give me a synopsis of that too, can it?
Yeah, absolutely. All that. And the key difference there and the key enabler there is your own data, your own documents and files, because that doesn't, that kind of a solution doesn't help you at all if it isn't on your own data and the stuff you're looking for that you have somewhere in all the archives and file folders and who knows where, cloud services and who knows what, right? But collecting it and doing very customized and very specific search and organizational and summarization, to your point, all great stuff.
Yeah, and there's always good things that AI can do, right? That's one of the good things that it can do, and help us. So we're going to leave this open for a lot of folks are answering this, so I can't wait to see what they say, Jeff. I'm really interested in this. So we're going to give you another 5. You write one letter or one word, or you can do a little short answer. This isn't a novel, but we'll give you another 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Any last minute stragglers? We're 50%, 51, and all right. There's still answers. So here we go. That's it. All right. Here we go. Let's see what we can see here. I have to look at how this actually works. View details. Hold on. Can I hand this over for a second? Let me if you stop, can you stop sharing you can't see my screen. So I'm going to share this screen. It's the first time I've done this way. So this is kind of cool. All right. Medical notes, reducing paperwork time, auditing and coding, if more effective in my writing, organize. Bonna, you're with me. I'm with you. Take tasks off my employees' hands that are not mission critical but still have value to the organization. Wow, Stephanie, that's a winner. Forecast program data. All right. Automate a lot of things I do professionally and personally. Find missing tasks. Reduce manual touches within the revenue cycle. I love that. Referencing, organizing. Wow, there's a lot here. Fantastic. A lot of organizing, right? Keep a lot of things in here. Write analysis code. That's great. Anna, that's awesome. Anything else you want to see here? These are great.
Oh, that's great stuff.
Apply to college for my kid. Love that one.
FAFSA one
Love
of
it.
these days, right?
Let's see if there's any last ones here. Organize my docs, personal assistant, note taking, summarizing, etc. Graham, that's a great one. That's all great. All right, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Thanks for that was the first time I've ever done that with a fill in the blank. Thank you for proving that it actually does work. All right, go ahead. What you got there? We can keep it going because now we're going to get into like what it's been used for, right?
Yep, exactly. Right? So I mean, so now we'll kind of give some answers to that question basically, which is here's a list of some examples of some examples of some stuff that is happening currently. Quite a lot of this, and these are general needs, and there's quite a bit more specific stuff underneath this. And some of these are in different states of maturity and different points on the so-called hype cycle in terms of how real are they versus what's being said about them. But a lot of solid stuff in here and a lot of potential value, right? Decision support, unstructured content, and really driving processes from content. So you get in an invoice and it has to go through some approval, and that's a job nobody likes doing. But if you can run that through an engine that understands how to validate the invoices or whatever the case may be. Classification, discovery search, anomaly detection is a pretty big thing from a cybersecurity perspective. Watching out for signs of trouble in different ways and learning from the behavior of your own environment. Customer churn, process optimization, language processing, content generation is a pretty big one there. So lots of stuff already happening in a lot of these. ChatGPT is the engine behind some of these things. Some other ones like churn reduction and anomaly detection have to have your own developed AI models and solutions, again, with the data that you have, but a lot going on in these areas and more developing all the time. Some additional that are more future ones where we're not quite there yet, but, progress is being made and we're, in the not too distant future. Self-driving vehicles is the main thing. I think certain car companies have stopped pretending or claiming that they're entirely autonomous because we're just not quite there yet. And obviously legislation and the legal side of that is a pretty big inhibitor there, right? It's not the technology so much as it's what happens when something bad happens, right? And that's true in a lot of these areas. Personal assistance, somebody saying either, on your computer, help me identify what the next available thing in my schedule is, or help me do stuff in my calendar or my email or my own personal computer tools and things like that. But also more and more, help me, because I have a disability, or for hazardous tasks, or for, exploring the underwater caves and things that we don't, that are too risky for people, that kind of stuff. Modern warfare, that's a whole area I don't want to get into. There's, obviously all kinds of considerations and options and things about that. Medical data analysis is a huge one. There's a lot of that. We at Divine have worked with a couple of companies on AI-based, medical diagnosis and helping doctors make better decisions, right? And then, of course, the last one there, somebody asked about in the upfront questions, general artificial intelligence is considered, kind of the quote holy grail of this whole kind of technology, and that's really AI that is not just good at solving one or a handful of related problems, but can solve any problem in ways similar to how humans approach and solve problems, right? So that's AI getting intelligent, and or even up to self-aware, right? So all the doomsday movies and things like that you've ever seen.
And Ginger just brought
Odyssey,
it up.
Terminator, RoboCop, Matrix, all that stuff is about general AI.
Ginger, it was on cue, Ginger. She's like, there's a robot taxi in San Francisco and parking lots of videos are nuts. And GAI equals Skynet. For those of you,
exactly.
For those of you who do not know Skynet, I'll be back. Figure out.
Exactly, right?
That's the best I got. Sorry, Ginger. I couldn't help myself either.
So, of course, the main question here is, when is this happening, right? And there's lots of names for this, even up to, the inflection point and, the end of the world as we know it again, since it didn't happen in 2000 or any of the other handful of things I remember in the last 20 or 30 years.
I'm still preparing for Y2K, just so you know.
Me too, right? I think we're okay, but never quite sure. So
never know. It could still happen.
So, the current, projections on when we might achieve general AI is anywhere from as soon as 2030 to as long as 2050, right? So somewhere in that 20-year span, in about 10 years or so, and again, a lot of this depends on how quickly hardware ramps up and, things like quantum computing that are also developing alongside of this. Obviously the limitation here is gigantic amounts of information and huge amounts of computing power to do all the number crunching and training of these models. And that's why, I mentioned NVIDIA sells processors that do this really well. And that's, they're selling them like crazy. So
and Ginger is a troublemaker.
I hope we don't get to, but where we're probably headed.
Ginger is a troublemaker. Ukraine is using robot dogs. I'm telling you, it is happening though, right? We are seeing this stuff happen. And the robot dogs are creepy.
You know what? Go do a search for Boston Robotics and a couple of other companies that have some crazy videos about the capabilities of current, humanoid and, animals shaped and other kinds of, what they're doing with robotics these days. Now, again, to be clear, robotics and AI are not the same thing. Robotics is not artificial intelligence, right? Making those robots autonomous, meaning we give them general instructions and they go figure out how to do it for themselves, and
what could go wrong?
And dynamic environments and stuff like that. That's where it's really AI, right? Not just
what could possibly go wrong, right, Ginger? What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, exactly. So
anywho, she admits she's a troublemaker, and I knew she was when she started.
So, really what this comes down to is new kinds of solutions, right? New kinds of ways computers can operate and things that they can do for us, right? And up till pretty recently, and in the big explosion I've talked about here, computer systems were built by programming. You write code, you give them instructions, you tell them what to do, and you have to handle all the possibilities and all the error conditions and all the edge cases and, make sure your program covers all the basis of how the system should behave, right? That's the way it's been done since the beginning of time and still is, right? But now not only can AI do programming, right, but with AI and learning, machine learning solutions and all the different kinds of machine learning based AI solutions, the way you build those is not by programming and writing code and giving them instructions. It's by giving them data structured in a way that they use to build a model and can infer stuff about the data and use that to answer new questions or create new output or generate new behaviors based on the raw data that it interprets and makes sense out of in its own way, right? So, what the valuable thing needed to create computer systems used to be people that knew how to program, and now it's your data, right? And your data in a way that's both secure and makes it available to do these cool new things. And more than ever, your data is a valuable resource that can unlock new kinds of insights, new kinds of optimizations, automizations, and all kinds of great things, right? But how, right? How do we do that? What's needed to do that? It's hard to overstate the importance of data today. There's all kinds of uses. All these things use data, whether or not they're powered by AI or AI-based solutions. But, AI applies to pretty much all of these things as well. When you're taking that, the things we've been doing lately and that people have been doing using this data, and now we can do even more and enable people to be even more productive when doing these kinds of data-based tasks and areas of tasks and things like that, right? So again, all this is limited by your data, what you have, the quality of your data, and what you can do with your data. Real quick here, data strategy is the plan for how you do this, right? So what are all the things you have to think about and consider, and where does this fit into your broader organizational business strategy, right? I won't talk about any of this other than to say there's a lot of words on this page and a lot of orange boxes. And they all have a bunch of stuff in them that's all important in different ways and everything else, right? So this is, change the paradigm of how we build computer systems and leverage computer science in the world of AI going forward. It's all about this kind of stuff, not writing code and how do you develop systems, with programmers and things like that.
And David just brought up today, it's about data modeling. That's all part of it, right?
Yeah, exactly. This is all related to that. Data modeling fits into data analysis and use and sharing and distribution to an extent. And these other things are both either feeding into that or impact how you deliver and utilize that, right? So Good stuff.
And Ginger's
So
saying, I'm looking forward to how our Power BI reports business intelligence, right? Ginger, am
yeah,
I getting that right?
yeah. That's a Microsoft product that does a
Yeah.
lot of great analysis and things that Microsoft is injecting Copilot and AI tools into as well.
Yep. Said just needs access, full access to Copilot. Go beat somebody up, Ginger. That's all I know.
Yeah,
Gotta go
exactly.
smack somebody over the head.
So of
I'm
course it's
not
also very
I'm not
important as,
encouraging.
I'm sorry, what?
I was just saying, I'm not encouraging violence, Ginger.
Oh, good. Yeah, let's be clear about that. So, of course, as we're thinking about all this, one of the most important areas, not just when, building solutions with data like we were just talking about, but even leveraging them and using them, in any private or public scenario. These are, there are several different ways to look at trust, risk, and security and trustworthy and responsible AI. But it comes down to different variations of these 7 or so areas, right? Making sure it's what it says it is, making sure that it's, doesn't cause any harm or damage, making sure it, is resistant and secure. We understand how it behaves and it's clear and transparent. We can understand and work backwards to figure out how did it come up with what it came up with, right? Can we understand what went on inside the black box to deliver, the results from the input that was given, right? And how can we make sure it doesn't share and expose us in ways we don't anticipate? And making sure that, any time where there's any judgment types of things or anything that relates to people or either directly or indirectly, make sure we ensure that it has no bias, no discrimination, no judgment error. And all that's very important to be sure that we're being ethical and helpful and not causing harm and causing damage to one or many different groups of people. Right. So at the end of the day, the maybe most important thing that the mature data platform and paying attention to all these things we talked about for the last couple of slides is the ability to start to do these kinds of things we've talked about, to start to build out, custom AI models or to start to leverage your own proprietary data in large language models and generative tools, right? It really comes down to what data do you have, what's the quality of that data, how is it organized, and how accessible yet secure it can be made. And often, that includes new kinds of technologies like, cloud storage and cloud platforms and things like that. But no matter where it is, what it is, and how it is, right, understanding how to unlock that in a secure and safe way is really the key to all these things going forward.
And Anna just said, just on cue almost with that, she said, very glad you're highlighting the potential built-in biases. AI is only good as our data, and that is a fact.
That absolutely is true, right? And that's the number one takeaway from anything to do with AI, and certainly our talk here today is that, what you get out depends on what you put in, and if the garbage in, garbage out, or bias in, bias out, and it's really hard to, understand and really leach all the bias out of, anything where publicly generated data or historical information or stuff where, it is what it is. That's hard, and that's probably the main challenge with all of it.
It's interesting you say that, Jeff, because we've done briefings, especially with EPA, dealing with data collection, especially scientific data collection, and using scientific methodology in order to help get the data looking right in the first place, because that makes the data even better and more usable. So, and we will get, Matthew, we'll talk about that in just a minute and about current places for government employees. I do want to address that. And okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, so we're just kind of segueing in here into a couple there. So there's a ton of tools out there, right? So we've talked in general terms primarily. I mentioned one or two things specifically here, right? But be aware that there's a ton of options and opportunities out there. There's a lot of stuff you can do with free and open source tools and languages and libraries. Most of the stuff that is available commercially started out life as open source models or using existing tools and tool sets. And companies have added value or built on or injected security or whatever to make them their own product and to charge money for them, right? But underlying almost all the commercial products on the left are one or more of the open source or free technologies on the right here. So what that means is two things. Number one, you don't have to go spend money to get value out of these capabilities and things like that. There's a lot that can be done without spending money or without tying yourself to a particular vendor, platform, tools, products, right? But there is a lot of value in the proprietary commercial offerings and tools. Now I'm going to drill a little bit into Microsoft and some of Microsoft's AI capabilities and their paid for products. Oops, wrong button. And but be aware that everything else on the left there, Salesforce, Google, Amazon, IBM, other things like now more and more Apple is playing in this space as well and trying to get into the commercial and industrial space there too, right? So there's a lot of tools that you can pay for, and there is value that comes with paying for those tools. And again, that's kind of what we're here to talk about today is, if you are spending money, what are you getting out of that? And it's what we talked about. It's capabilities that you can't build on your own very easily, using sets of data and public and private, in some cases, information that isn't available easily, and large and very capable models that have been pre-built and pre-trained, and that investment in doing that training, which can cost a lot of money and take a lot of time, has already been done. And when that can both use your own proprietary data and look into your own environments and own systems and data sources and other things you do, that's really where a ton of value comes out of these things. And that's where it can really help you do things you do every day more efficiently, more effectively, more quickly. In particular, right, so kind of segueing into a little bit more about Microsoft, that's just what I'm most familiar with, and do believe they've got some cool and easy to use stuff that integrates very well with the Office apps that we use every day and other things like that. So this is a little bit about both on the left, Microsoft's overall product suite and a lot of the things in their platform that enables this and makes these things possible. And then, of course, Copilot is how they make this visible and available to end users. So Copilot is a bunch of technologies and capabilities injected into things like Microsoft Edge web browser, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Microsoft Teams, right? Microsoft Power Platform. A lot of these things that Microsoft makes available, Copilot is about surfacing AI tools in ChatGPT-like interface where you ask it questions or give it instructions, and it knows how to interpret that and go do cool stuff and even generate content for you based on that. So let's go ahead and I'm going to switch gears here and actually stop doing slides and show you a couple things. Let us begin with AI and Copilot in Microsoft Edge and Microsoft Bing search engine, right? So two different things here, right? Now, when you go to the Bing website, whether or not you're using Edge or Google Chrome or Safari or any other browser, Microsoft has now made Copilot available within their search engine, right? So you can search like you've always been able to search, and it'll pull up, websites and things like that. In the same way, it's long competed with, Google search, right? But you can also, give it instructions or have it generate content and things like that. So if I click on, the Copilot button over here, it opens up a whole new interface within my web browser, and I can start to ask it questions, right? So that's one way to access Copilot, within the Edge browser. The other thing I can do here is not, rather than going to the web page for Copilot within the Bing search engine, in Edge, it's been integrated right into the web browser application. So I can open up a side panel here by clicking on the Copilot icon in the upper right corner, and that collapses, my web page window and opens up, the Copilot interface within my web browser here. So I can do some pretty cool things within here. I can chat, basically a private version of ChatGPT. And if it's on the web, I've got two different options here, web or work. Web, behaves kind of pretty much like ChatGPT, although it won't share your search prompts and things like that. And if I put it in work mode, then it actually becomes an AI-based interface into my Microsoft 365 environment. So people in our organization that are in Active Directory, groups and things in Teams, sites and stuff in SharePoint, all kinds of stuff that you might have in your Microsoft 365 cloud solutions environments, now becomes available to search and summarize and do whatever within here, right? So let's just give you a quick example, a couple of lightweights. We can do chat or compose, and we'll talk about compose in a minute, but let's just go ahead and I'm going to say, just ask it a question. What's the value of AI for the federal government? So could ChatGPT have basically given this whole presentation and you don't need me anymore, right? Let's see what it says to that question. And so what it does now is it takes that and it goes out and it, looks at its database and it starts to string a bunch of words together in probabilistic ways that creates useful output, right? And usually by default, it gives you it in a list of bullet points or numbered lists or things like that. And it's not always perfect. And keep in mind that it even says right here at the bottom that AI generated content might be incorrect. So it's on you to make sure you do the back checking here, right? Because it might make stuff up and it's called hallucinating in the AI world, right? And
it does make stuff
right?
up.
So most of the time it's right, but don't trust it, trust but verify, I guess, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Another one that I really like is tell me a joke. All right, so now we get into how do you tell if an AI is actually human or not, right? The Turing test is, can it trick you into thinking that you're talking to a human? And so the jokes are not great. So not going to be putting any stand-up comics out of work anytime soon, I don't think, right? So, but again, your mileage may vary. So moving on, let's do a couple other things here real quick. We're running kind of short on time, so I'll go quickly, but let's go look at an example in Microsoft Word. Let me bring up Word here. Actually, you know what? We're real short on time. I'm going to go straight to PowerPoint because this is where it's most interesting. Bring up the right PowerPoint. There we go. All right, so I've got a brand new, fresh PowerPoint presentation here, right? And you'll notice because I own and am paying for the license for Microsoft 365 Copilot, which is $30 a month, I get this button over here and it lets me open up the Copilot interface. And now basically I have a chat engine within PowerPoint. So I can tell it what I want it to do for me, right? I don't have to go type stuff in. I don't have to go look for images. I can just say, for example, add a slide that summarizes the branch of the U.S. federal government. So maybe I'm putting together some overview thing or something, educational or whatever. And so I tell it to go make me a slide that talks about that. So it takes a few minutes here. It's churning behind the scenes. It's doing the content generation, again, based on its huge model of, that Microsoft has created behind this. And lo and behold, it creates a slide and it pulls a picture and it gives me a title and a few key points about, each branch of the government, right? Cool stuff. Nothing super, that's kind of magical, right? It's not super great. And you can go back and have it regenerate and tweak it and things like that. You can also invoke the designer, which lets you say things like, what do you want it to look like? Let's change it. And it can generate different options and different, specific looks. Maybe you like the picture on the right, so it can switch around that way. I kind of like the one where it, has a gradation and fades in and out, but, not only can it generate the content for you, but can it generate a bunch of different looks and feels and things like that, and even try to come up with infographics that are never awesome, right? But might be a good starting point, to get you onto, something that meets your needs, right? So a lot of other things we can do here. Let's just for kicks go back and do one other thing.
And I do have a couple questions for you, Jeff. Because Matthew's asking the question, can you talk about what is currently available for government employees? Matthew's in Indian Health Service Research. So you've done a lot of stuff in health, and I know you have IDIQs that you're working on. Is there anything you can disclose about what you're doing?
So, I think no, the short answer is specifically, I kind of gave the guidance that I have at this point, at the beginning and in the early slides, right? So I think I would characterize it like this. If your organization, your agency is currently using Microsoft 365 and you have, things like Microsoft Exchange email using Outlook and SharePoint and Teams, and, if you have those kinds of capabilities, right? Then you might be eligible or might have the option to utilize Copilot. Now it's a separate subscription, they have to purchase licenses and then assign licenses to people to enable the capabilities that I was just kind of showing here, right?
Yeah.
And it depends on your agency. And no, I don't have answers to which agency it's allowed in and which ones it's done. It doesn't.
And they're still working that out, right? They're working out the whole
right?
EO thing. I do want to make sure we get this real quick for everybody, and we'll finish up with the other questions, if that's all right. If you'd like to continue the conversation, if you have a project, because there's folks that ask for this at the beginning, they want to make sure they're involved in the conversation. So let's do this. If you have a particular need or project, you want to see how you can use AI in your role. If you'd like to be a panelist in this next Gov Brief, because we're going to do a Gov Brief in the not too distant future talking about this. We're going to continue the conversation here. We're also going to continue the conversation within your agency. That's the whole idea. We get specific about it, and then we'll get you guys going. So I know there's folks that have to drop off because we're coming up at the top of the hour. So we appreciate you guys joining us, but we don't leave anybody hanging either, right, Jeff?
No, sir.
So
this is the last slide here, and I won't go into this too long other than to say, we've looked at a bunch of different things, talked about private versus public, how important that is, and suggested some ways and some tools to try to get there. I think one thing I would suggest is everybody, go search your own agencies for, AI and artificial intelligence, because many and more of the agencies are publishing and putting out, their own policies or their own focus or perspective, so see what's already out there that might answer questions about what you can and can't do. And then I would encourage you to, ask internally, which tools can you use, or which, what's available to you to use in some of these scenarios, because some of it almost certainly is, but not all of it is quite yet. But like I said, hopefully the rest, especially in the Microsoft platform, hopefully open the doors the rest of the way by about this time next year.
So. Awesome. That is fantastic. Give me one more control over this and I'll share out and we'll get you guys out of here. If you'd like to react or do anything, we appreciate everybody giving us thumbs up. For the folks that are rolling out, you're welcome. Thanks for joining us, first of all. You'll get a recap tomorrow a.m. You'll have the presentation. I'll have a link to the video. You'll get another link to a finalized video a little bit later. Agency one-on-one meetings is going to be handled by Matt Sweet. He wasn't with us today, but he's the one that's going to be following up. If you're asking for additional information to be included in anything, Matt is the man. Great job, Jeff. Awesome as usual. Really appreciate your insight on this. And you always have something new. So if you guys like what Jeff had to say, if you don't like what Jeff had to say, don't give a thumbs down. I'm just kidding. But yeah, we appreciate you very much. Give thumbs up. If you got also the handouts, if you can get those, let me know that it actually looks right. We do have a question. Let me go to the Q&A real quick because I saw somebody popped it in. I asked them to do a Q&A. Where's my Q&A? There it is. What is currently available for personal users? Eugene is asking that. There's a lot available for personal users, right?
Yeah, so all that kind of, I'm saying some of the Microsoft tools that I was just talking about, Microsoft 365 Copilot specifically is a paid for product. You got to have licenses. But if you just go to Bing.com, right, Microsoft search engine, it's kind of right in there. And same thing for, Google now has some AI built into the Google search engine. So, and there's a ton of tools out there that can do generative, words and text and language and images and graphics and even, videos and animations these days. So, lots of stuff. Again, keep in mind, don't put private, proprietary, secret information in is all, and otherwise, you're okay.
Ginger's sharing stuff on YouTube. We'll check that out too. We'll look at that. Margot, you should be getting this if you go to that link. If not, everybody will get a copy of it. We'll make sure we attach it to as a PDF for everybody after this.
And I think somebody was just saying there's a lot more available on, not within the government network because that's pretty locked down and private, but.
Correct.
So.
And Ginger, yeah, you can check out those. I'm sure Ginger's got a crazy video there, don't you, Ginger? I know you do.
But the other thing is that a lot of the guidance and stuff that we talked about at the beginning coming out of the White House and these agencies are trying to encourage usage and trying to get people to a place where you can go start to understand how these tools can be beneficial going forward. So I guess I'd suggest everybody kind of challenge or kind of ask up the food chain about what is possible or when it will be possible, right?
And by the way, when you're talking to them, you'll be able to do the research and identify the components for individual agencies too. Matt will help you.
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
Jeff and Matt will help you identify those things, because that can be complicated even if you're in the agency. As I talk to CIOs,
space, it's not trivial, right? So it's just more complicated in the government land, but
yeah,
it's not trivial in any case.
All right, guys. Well, we will get you out of here, and appreciate you joining us. And Heidi, you are welcome. And we love all the good stuff that you want to say. We love that. And you're all welcome as well. Thanks for sticking around for a little bit. Any kind. Harry says, Skynet out. That's awesome.
All right.
Oh, look at that. So Harry is part of the transition to annihilation, apparently. All right. So, all right, guys. Well, good stuff. Ginger says you've been targeted for termination. All right,
sorry,
Ginger.
I gotta go.
You gotta get out of here. Oh my goodness. Right. I tell you what. Well, we do like to have a little bit of fun, don't we? All right, great stuff, Jeff. Any last second comments?
Nope, I think we covered it all. Good stuff.
Yeah, good stuff.
Explore carefully.
All right, appreciate you guys. We will see you next run.
All right, thanks a lot.